All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Wave to tell me you can hear me in the back row. I feel like I'm at one of our stadiums, maybe the Lions on Monday night at Ford Field for those of you that watch the game. There we go. I'm from Detroit originally. I can't officially root for any team, but very nice to see you guys. Look forward to today's conversation. AWS asked me to come and spend a little time with you talking about how we approach our journey of engaging fans. And it's always interesting when you think about the NFL and our scope and our breadth and the overall support that we have from fans around the country. Why do we have to spend even more time figuring out how we can effectively engage with our fans? So let me take you down that story, take you down the path of how we've thought about this, how we think about hyper-personalization, which sometimes has an interesting bent to it, but how we've approached that, why it's important, and why our backbone, our ecosystem that we build is so essential to this overall journey. So the simple answer to the first question is, why are we doing this? Well, we're living in a world where, of course, everything's being fragmented. This next phase of the digital revolution is resulting in content being distributed in ways we could have only dreamed of 10 years ago. And against that backdrop, certainly part of our strategy is to deliver content where fans want it, how they want to consume it, where. So you see our activities in our direct-to-consumer business, NFL Plus. You see it with new relationships such as with Amazon, Thursday Night Football. Please watch tomorrow night's game. That's always important. You see it with new partnerships, ways of distributing content. Certainly the recently announced partnership with ESPN is a reflection of that. For us, though, when we think about being able to see, know, and engage, it's more than just being able to distribute content in a way that makes it accessible to our fans. It's also about the reality that in this day and age, we have to engage with fans systematically. We have to engage with them in a way that we see them, we know them, and we engage in a meaningful way in context. We don't take our position for granted. Yes, we are the most successful sports league. Yes, we have this incredible reach. Yes, our viewership's up 7% this year. Yes, we'll have 200 million people watching the Super Bowl. But in this world of ever-changing dynamics, if you don't see, know your customers and make it relevant to them in terms of your relationship, you're going to struggle. And so for us, we laid out a vision in this journey with regards to this dilemma of hyper-personalization. But for us, it's really mass intimacy. It's the ability to really build out this capability to see you first, know you, and then act in a way that we can provide content, relationship, information with you that is most beneficial. That's really what this is all about. And it's interesting that when we look at other industries that have tried to do this, they focus similarly on the same tenets. They just see their customers as we see fans. And so this intimacy, and it's intimacy that is not overburdening to the fan. It's intimacy of being able to engage with them meaningfully in context. So we spend a lot of time focusing on when to engage, how to engage, what are the elements that make it most relevant to the fan. Once again, that's a big part of any company's journey, but for us at the NFL, it's pretty complex because we are not one entity. We're 32 clubs plus a league. So to do that with all the legacy challenges, all the operational challenges, and all the human dimensions that go along with it, make it very challenging. And therefore, we embarked on a journey over 3 years ago to be the first sports league that would be able to bring together that capability of seeing, knowing, and engaging our fans across all 33 entities. And it's been quite a journey because those dimensions that I just mentioned, the technical dimensions, which go along with the data dimensions, the process dimensions, the privacy and consent dimensions, and then the change management component of all of this are really all the hurdles we had to get over to accomplish what we now can say is the ability to see and know our fans in context. So if you take a step back and think about what you would have to do, certainly you have to tackle the issues from the change management side. But that other pillar of technical is a very heavy lift for us. And we look at it not in terms of building a stack. We didn't approach this in terms of getting up in the morning and saying, we're going to build a stack. We're going to figure out just how to deal with the elements within that stack. We thought of it as an ecosystem. And the reason we think of it as an ecosystem is there's certainly a technical component to it. There's a data component to it. But there's also the process elements that go along with it. There's the elements that are associated with the regulatory and legal dimensions of it. And we stitched this together in a way that tackles all of those issues. Now, don't get me wrong, managing the data is also challenging, whether it's 90, as you can see on this 90 billion rows of data, hundreds of different sources, clubs having different data standards, and we had different legacy issues. You know, my background's in manufacturing, and when I get up in the morning, I'm used to dealing with all these applications that were developed for a specific use, and then trying to harmonize them for usage that they weren't intended to do. We have the same problem here. The clubs all develop their environments on their own. They all develop their capabilities on their own. They all adhere to their own form of data governance and data standards. So as we built the environment, it was important for us to have an agile environment by which we could harmonize, standardize, validate the data, and do so in a way that was cost effective. I would mention against that, for any of you going down this journey, there are some hidden benefits now that we didn't have a decade ago. One of which in this ecosystem was very important to us is we now have interoperability. So the good news is now we don't have to buy an off-the-shelf stack and just accept it for what it is. We're able to put pieces together. And one of the benefits in our relationship with AWS is it allowed us to put those pieces together so the data management side, the ongoing challenges of how we manage that data in the cloud could be addressed by using different Lego blocks. That's the way we described it. Lego block here, Lego block there, stitching that together so the technical side and the data side of this could be done cost effectively and at scale. And then in parallel with this, we would deal with the human dimensions, the dimensions around change management, the legal, the privacy issues that go along with it. It's an interesting journey to try to undertake. And again, in my career, it's one of the most fascinating ones because of what we're trying to do. Now, how did we approach this in terms of AWS? Well, not surprisingly, we focused on using the cloud environment. We used the cloud environment in the way I just described it. We brought in different piece parts, and those piece parts allowed us to then manage data end to end. So when you think about customer data or fan data coming from disparate sources, you have to go through each one of these stages. So the first stage is how are you going to land data from all of these sources and efficiently standardize it, cleanse it, and then as it pertains to customer or fan data, how are you going to validate it and associate it with the right individual? Historically, what we would do is we would build our own environment, and that environment would be, for any of you that have been around a long time, we would call it a SIF or a repository or something along those lines. Well, fortunately, we don't have to do that. What we have to do is we have to still solve for the issues in a very agile or unique environment. It's the best way to describe it. And importantly for us, as we looked at what we did on our cloud environment, we focused on the fact that how could we ingest at speed? How could we then, once the data is ingested in a raw environment, how could we quickly curate, validate that data, associate it with our identity resolution capability, and then make sure that that data would be available for publishing purposes, usage purposes, with the right access controls. Fascinating for me, if you would have asked me doing this 15 years ago, I would have said that was a 4-year journey. That was a journey that would have cost X of tens of millions of dollars to do that. We accomplished all this in less than 2 years. And we accomplished all this for probably 1/10 what it would have cost us 10 years ago to do. And probably 1/20th what it would have cost us 15 years ago to do. That's the beauty of the environment we all live in. We have to embrace the fact that we're able to do this faster and better. We still have to hearken back into what we're trying to do from a mission standpoint, and that is to see and know and engage our customers, in our case, our fans, systematically. So it's been a lot of fun to do that. Today, as we get up in the morning, can we see our fans comprehensively, and can we engage with them meaningfully? Well, I'm very proud to say that we are the first sports league that 3 years into this journey, we can see and know 90 million fans in the U.S. That's an incredible privilege to have the right to be able to acquire that information on our fans, treat it respectfully, and engage with them meaningfully. Importantly, it's more than just seeing. We also are able to know our fans. And one of the things I would challenge any organization trying to do this is that seeing is now the easy part. We used to have these conversations around 360-degree view of your customer. Well, technology has advanced so far, and the ability to acquire data has become easier, not easy, but easier. The seeing part was the easy part for us, because once you're able to bring the data in and you're able to validate and associate, that affords you the opportunity to then determine that it's Jane Doe who lives in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and she is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And oh, by the way, you understand at least that superficial relationship. But you have to go beyond that, because if you're really going to engage meaningfully, you have to be able to know that fan. And for us, that was the ability to bring together all the attributes from our partners and our relationships and the club data to understand that Jane has a son in our family hierarchy who happens to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I don't know how they get together on Thanksgiving. I don't know how they relate to each other. I don't know. I suspect they don't talk about football. They probably watch the Lions game and celebrate that. They probably don't watch the Dallas game. Of course, if they're a Packers fan, they may not want to watch the Lions game. But the ability to see that family is part of this. Ability to understand Jane's relationships with us, her preferences, her past transactions, our ability to see how she interacts with us in terms of our communications, all part of this journey. Because once we know Jane and we know what Jane's preferences are and her relationships with us, we then are able to take the last step. And the last step is very important. How do we engage with Jane in a way that makes a difference in her life? And by the way, this is where most companies screw up. Because when you get up in the morning, if you can do the technical issues and the data issues around seeing and knowing, what are you apt to do? Well, you're apt to start communicating with Jane a lot. Emails are pretty cheap. So you hit the send button, you hit the send button, you hit the send button, you hit the send button. Increasingly, we can use SMS and push. We can use other media channels. So it's extremely important that when we think about engaging, we use the expression of engaging meaningfully in context. And that's something I would challenge all of us to reflect on today within our own business environment. Because if you're going to engage with your customers, that expression of meaningfully in context is not just a sophisticated way of describing it. It is something that we adhere to. We have the privilege and the right to engage Jane. She has consented to allow us to have that conversation with her. And now the key for us is to make sure that we're respecting that, and that when we are engaging with her, we're providing value. We're providing information that she can use if she's going to a game. Information about tune-in to watch a game. Information about special jerseys because there's new jerseys for a select set of games and rivalries. Or other information that we can provide her. We also build that feedback loop continuously, so we're constantly learning about the effectiveness of that engagement. The ability to make sure that we're continuously honing to ensure that the journey isn't a passive journey, that it's a very active journey. 3 years in, we have this unified view. We have the ability to see, know, and engage Jane and millions of other fans. We're doing something similarly internationally, using our cloud-based environment to do the same thing. That's a whole level of complexity, though, because of regulations and other challenges you deal with. But at its core, this is what this journey's been all about. I see you, I know you, and I engage with you in a meaningful way in context. So for the NFL, when we think about looking back why we did this, we certainly want the journey for our fans to be beneficial. We certainly want the journey to be relevant to them. But get back to my opening point, in a world that's changing in front of us, this is also essential to our business model. So for any of us getting up in the morning during the dark days of COVID, one of the business trends that rapidly accelerated coming out of COVID was direct to consumer. In my field of data and analytics, I can't tell you how many phone calls in 2020 I received from companies and board of directors to say, please come talk to me. I don't have a direct to consumer model. What am I going to do with my digital strategy? What am I going to do in e-commerce? What am I going to do fill in the blank? And similarly for us, not just because of COVID, but because of the fragmentation of the media environment we're in, the question for the NFL is, how do we want to make sure that we control our fate, that we control the relationship with consumers? Doesn't mean we don't have very important partners to continue to disseminate content around, but it is extremely important for us that we support our D2C business going through this journey, no matter where it's going to go. And by the way, if anybody here wants to try to forecast where the direct-to-consumer world's going to be in 5 or 10 years, I wish you luck. Because if we tried to forecast it in 2015, by a show of hands, anybody get that right? You may have directionally gotten it right, but you didn't get it right in terms of all the nuances and all the subtleties going along with it. And then for us, of course, this affords us the opportunity to talk about leveraging new technology and new capabilities. I know it's very sexy right now to talk about AI. Again, I come at this with multiple decades in data and analytics. We've actually been talking about artificial intelligence my entire career. And certainly starting in the 90s in manufacturing, we talked about artificial intelligence because of plants, quality, safety, all of those things, autonomous vehicles. Why is it important now? Because Gen AI and other elements within that category democratize capabilities to everybody, which is great. It's the next phase of the digital revolution. Again, trying to determine where that's going to go, good luck, because we know directionally some things, but the patterns are just now emerging. For us, what's important is we want to make sure we have the foundational capabilities in place to leverage technology as technology is emerging. And that includes the fact that AI will help us in terms of content at scale. It does help us in terms of improving targeting, and we are using capabilities on that front. It does help us in terms of optimizing our business each and every day. The key for us, and I believe the key for every company doing this, is you want optionality. You want optionality in your environment, which means that if you have the right capabilities from a data standpoint, process standpoint, a business engagement perspective, you'll be able to better leverage the technology as that technology is unfolding. Because if you don't have those fundamentals in place, that cliche you're hearing right now that smart AI requires smart data, it's absolutely true. But I would also argue smart AI requires not only smart data, but it requires smart processes, and it requires smart governance, and it requires smart change management, and it requires an organization's ability to be able to consume and leverage, which is why, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, our journey was heavily around an ecosystem. Our journey wasn't just about the technology stack. The ecosystem was consciously decided on our part. So I challenge all of us to think about it on that front. So let me just wrap this up in terms of giving you my thoughts with regards to the lessons. You can see them on the screen. One of my favorite expressions in all the decades of doing this is you do have to eat your vegetables before you eat dessert. It's very important. We all want the sexiness of what technology can afford us. We all want to use technology to connect with our customers or optimize our business model or do other things. But it is extremely important that you get the fundamentals in place. Again, my benefit of having a front row seat over 4 decades through multiple industries and multiple phases of this digital revolution is I've gotten to see what works and what doesn't work, and I try to help organizations make new mistakes. It is an absolutely core lesson that you have to get the fundamentals in place. And working with AWS, we focus very heavily on getting the fundamentals in place. Secondly, going right along with that, you have to have organizational buy-in. You hear all these companies talk about why my technology project didn't work, why my technology project wasn't as successful as we designed it to be. Well, first of all, the way you're describing it is a flaw. It's not a technology project. It's the ability to use technology and data and capabilities to help transform a business. It's not a science project. It is something that affords us the opportunity to help support business to transform. And as we think about our ability to engage with fans, it was absolutely essential for us that we had organizational buy-in. And that organizational buy-in included 32 independent clubs and then a league office on top of it. And those clubs are independent, and they're owned by very successful people who have very strong points of view and a lot of passion about their organization. So it's essential you get that. You have to certainly get the fundamentals right on the data side. I'm the Chief Data Analytics Officer, so I get up every morning of every day and worry about the data side. But data is not there for data's sake. It is essential that your data management ties back to your business processes and your business objectives. Data is crazy in this day and age. When I started off, we didn't have transactional data. We used market research. We used government data. That's what we did. Now we're afforded the opportunity of collecting data at scale and processing it and making sense. You have to get it right, but you don't do it in a vacuum. Get the elements of data management in place, data governance, data standards, all those elements going along with it. And last but certainly not least, for any of us going through this transformational journey, you got to put points on the board. And that's just not a sports reference. That's a reference in any industry. If you're going forward and you're trying to transform your relationship with customers or fans or anything along those lines, that's a lot of change management. And the investment does require you getting up and saying, here's proof, here's evidence, here's what you need to do to drive value. So that's been our journey. It's been a delight going through this. I'm very proud to say we are the first sports league to ever do this. And hopefully for all of you that are NFL fans, you feel the passion that we have in terms of not taking your fandom for granted. We get up every day, focus on making the game better. If you're a New York fan, we're going to continue to work with your clubs to make the game better. We get a lot of passion on that topic, certainly. We're there to do that. We're there to ensure the integrity of the game. We're also there to make sure that our relationship with fans make a difference in your life, because our goal is for you to be even more excited about the game, to see more value, to build the social cohesion that we believe the game brings to society. And I thank you for your time today. Good luck in the rest of the season and enjoy the rest of the conference, and have a nice afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much.